Welcome back to our channel. Stacy sat at the edge of her bed, the early morning light just starting to peek through her bedroom window. The world outside was still quiet, but inside, she could already feel the familiar hum of anxiety creeping in. The weight of her chaotic life was ever present, the constant demands from work, the tension with her family, the never-ending swirl of expectations and stress. Yet Stacy knew that she had to find a way to rise above it, to protect her peace in the midst of the storm. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply through her nose and exhaling slowly through her mouth. The deep breathing exercises were something she had adopted recently, a small but significant ritual that allowed her to center herself before the chaos began. In those quiet moments of stillness, she found solace, if only for a few minutes. With each breath, Stacy focused on her morning affirmation, repeating it softly to herself. I am surrounded by positive energy. She envisioned a bubble of light around her, protecting her from the negativity that seemed to seep into every corner of her life. It wasn't just words, it was a lifeline. Saying it gave her a sense of control, of power over the energy she allowed into her life. Then, she took out her small notebook from the nightstand. Flipping to a blank page, Stacy wrote down her manifestation for the day. I manifest inner peace and calmness. As she wrote the words, she visualized what peace would look like in her life. It wasn't about changing her environment, she realized. It was about changing her reaction to it. She couldn't control the chaos around her, but she could control how she responded to it. At work, the office was a pressure cooker. Her boss constantly micromanaged, deadlines were always tight, and her colleagues often contributed to the toxic atmosphere with their gossip and negativity. Stacy used to feel overwhelmed, her stress levels skyrocketing as she tried to navigate the hostile environment. But now, each morning's practice of deep breathing and positive affirmations was like armor. When the negativity swirled around her, she reminded herself, I am surrounded by positive energy. She blocked out the noise and focused on her tasks, refusing to engage with the toxic conversations. At home, things weren't much better. Her family had a way of pushing her buttons. Old arguments resurfaced, tensions flared, and sometimes it felt like peace was an impossible dream. But Stacy had learned to find her calm in the middle of it all. When her family members argued or tried to pull her into their drama, she would excuse herself and take a moment to breathe. I manifest inner peace and calmness, she would repeat to herself, steadying her heart and mind. It wasn't about avoiding her family or pretending the problems didn't exist. It was about not letting the chaos consume her. Over time, something began to shift. Stacy noticed that she was no longer reacting to her environment in the same way. The deep breathing, the affirmations, and the manifestations were working. She wasn't just coping anymore. She was thriving. The stress that used to weigh her down no longer had the same power over her. She still had bad days, of course, but now, even in the middle of the storm, Stacy could find her center. She had created a well of peace within herself, one that couldn't be easily disturbed by external forces. Her colleagues began to notice the change in her. How do you stay so calm? One of them asked during a particularly hectic day at work. Stacy smiled softly. I just focus on my own energy, she replied. She didn't need to explain further. The peace she had cultivated within herself spoke louder than words. At home, her family noticed too. While the chaos around her hadn't magically disappeared, Stacy's new approach had a ripple effect. Her calmness in the face of tension began to influence those around her. Arguments that once lasted for hours were now diffused more quickly. Her family started to respect the boundaries she had quietly put in place, allowing her the space to maintain her peace. Stacy's life wasn't perfect, but she had found a way to navigate the imperfection with grace. Every morning, she continued her routine, deep breaths, affirmations, and manifestations. I am surrounded by positive energy, she would say, grounding herself for the day ahead. I manifest inner peace and calmness, she would write, knowing that peace wasn't something that came from outside of her. It was something she created within herself. In a world that often felt out of control, Stacy had found her anchor. And in doing so, she had transformed not just her mindset, but her entire life. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.